Sanje Chudan Doji Jonala Shanja Bada Dana Jasunje Agi Shishi Jive Zananje Ola Benjo Sanje Ndraba Sho Sanje Chudan Shanja Bada Dana Jasunje Agi Shishi Jive Zananje Rola Benja Sanje Drabasho Sanje Chudan Zoji Jonala Shanja Bada Dana Jasunje Agi Chishi Jebe Zonanje Rola Benja Sanje Drabasho. I'm just over there. Okay, good evening, everyone. You all hear me? Good. Good. Okay. Anyway, it's how are you, Mark? Sleeping? Want to make bed? You want to make bed? You want to make bed? You want to make bed there? You want to sleep the back? No, you want to sleep? Oh, yeah.
You will sleep in the back.
Okay, anyway. Today's Wednesday topic is very complicated. No, it makes it very confused. As one hand, it's an important subject to study in order to, feel education for the picture about Buddhism. It's important to study. And secondly, is what purpose to study that? Maybe think that. Is you all right? I mean, you don't get much to from that. Okay, I'm practicing that. What he said, what she said, what they believe like this. Something like that, but feel full. The whole education Buddhism is important to what the difference or different tenets. Or especially you maybe have you studied before any Buddhism? Okay. And basically Buddhism is one hand we can say the religions, one hand is also science, one hand is also for medicine for our mental. Usually we have so many things going on. There's so many specialists to doctors, nurses, as a psychologists, and what what are that? So many different advisors, right? That's good. They're all good. As Buddhism says, it's all depends on our, of course, depends on outside condition, but also according to our own mind. Keep our mind, with us or try to positive way. And Buddhism is explained like that, how to keep our mind peace, relax, useful. Usually, human's mind very intelligent. Right now we very surprised for the science, right? A small peace bomb before all the world destroyed. Those things all the human with our own intelligence. Sometimes everything with the inhibitions, but not mission. Mission, right? Mission. The mission. Yeah. Missions. correct? Missions, mission, right? Rocket, the tools, the terminologies, missions, build things the missions, right? It doesn't get. No, usually we surprised to the missions, right? The car, airplane, terminology things. But this old missions built by human beings, right? Okay. Therefore, human beings very intelligent. No, we can do anything. As Buddhism says, we need to use more deep our intelligence to practice to happy or however. In order to that, we need to also more study for the different texts, just different experience. Then the Buddhism has we have like many different Buddha on composed like 108 books, like big books. And the commentaries also like more than 220 books. Those like three categories. One is the Buddhism practice, one is the Buddhism view, one is the Buddhism science. Therefore, Buddhism science is very similarly for the Western science, because Western science, they talk about reality, what they see, what they find, what they feel. Exactly, they say, okay, give me the glass, they will bring glass here. And Buddhism science also describe how like humans' body work, humans' mind work, how different contexts for outside things outside, and our mind, how they work, how they connection, how they depend each other. Make sense? Got it? Like that. But the whole knowledge, we talk about that. About very deep, very rich religion or very rich education. Therefore, it takes time, sometimes very bored to study. No, you have to study whole life. Therefore, you very, like that. Therefore, it's not easy to study one day to finish or you understand. It's not easy like that. In order to, we have to get the doctor's degree. We have to study many years, right? Like that. Therefore, the purpose to study practice to keep our mind, peace, relax, open. Is the main thing. Okay? Good evening, Tamju. Is he hearing me? Go there. Tamju, go there. Good.
Oh, good.
Oh, you guys got? You guys here, Tamju? Good. Good morning, Margaret. Okay?
Morning, Geshe-la. No, good evening, Geshe-la.
Yes, good evening. 야야, Tamju, 당연히 고통이다.
Yeah.
야야, 당연히 시단 남주영한도 튼타마가 시카디나 다시 남자, 남지 남자, 레비 남자. 이제 람 저슴지 남자들 막 송거려 봐.
And so in all these 4 tenets, it talks about the basis, and it talks about the path, and talks about the results.
아니 다시 남자 시험 걸어야 배나 덴바니 야만나 저 덴바니 남자 야만나 지금 가지고 아니 열다 이체가 남자 어떤 데에지는 만드 시험 걸어.
So when it talks about the basis, it explains about like sometime about the 2 truths, the ultimate truth and the conventional truth, and sometime about the object and the object possessors and so forth.
안에 드네 집에 갔더니 람그는 다 람가래 그래 간지 아니 가래 곰고 그래스 가래 빵고 그래스 용으로 와.
And then also talks about the path. So what kind of path has to be abandoned? I mean, sorry, how kind of path has to be meditated or practiced, and what should one abandon on the path to achieve the results of those paths.
당 계산도 가르쳐서마다 시당 튼다마 와서 가리인 바데 nd시 접사버려 와.
So before we already talked about the tenet, like what is the tenet, or what is tenet, and how many different kind of tenets are there.
다 디네 마니 당그 디네 다 담보 시라마 와서 돼. 근데 시라마 와서 돼. 간지 바 디시 접사인 바.
And then we talked about the first tenet, which is the Vaibhashika, right?
안에다 텔라 예와 만다와 가서 요리스나 다 시라마 와서에 전에 간지 대화시 대파이나 아니 대화 뉴스 좀 제서 요르마 슈자인 바.
Then we talked about the definition of the Vaibhashika and the divisions. So they are like when explained in more extensive, there are 18 divisions now of the Vaibhashika school.
나 디네 시네마 아니 가서 가르치네 때 어때 아니 시라마와 가르치 라고요 레스 인도가도 슈자인 바.
And then we talked about the etymology. Why is it called Vaibhashika?
근데 다 아니 때 시라마와 때 아니 무보세 가련도 레스 아니 딱 봐도 무보 가르치 바시자인 바.
And then mode of asserting the objects, like what is an object, and what kind of objects, what kind of existing objects are there, like permanent objects, impermanent objects, and then what is a functioning thing. So what is the thing, and talked about that, right? What thing, some that is able to perform a function. So we talked about that as well.
아니 전에 디올라마도 아니 시라메 군수된 바다 대단된 바까린도 요미 슈자인 바.
And talked about the the objects, like the conventional truth and the ultimate truths, right? According to Vaibhashika.
다디 가다 슈도 디 슈들라다 아니 시라마고 디숨 투모마인 바. 다 요레세 슈자인 바.
And then we talked about the 3 times asserted by the Vaibhashika, right?
와 아니 내 마음 내 바다 마음 바다다 사마탄다 요레시야 다데 코로 투모마시야 요르와.
So this is the uncommon assertion of the Vaibhashika school, to assert that all 3 times, like the past, present, and future, all exist in present.
어다때 빼샤다에 인제와자다 가셔줄 다 빼직직샤나 나 서도지 오이나 아니 서때 코니비 갑직 아니 지 암조 따야로서 직기 잘라 심반도 가리 잘라 심마 가리서는 맞으나 그런 온 줄고 말해서 어떻게 지 말해서
And so they have given many different kind of examples. So one example is about the gold. So the gold, at the time, when the gold is made into a earring, it's still a gold, or when it's made into something else, it's still a gold. So the gold stays gold; it doesn't change.
제가 디섬 제데 랑 온 좀 봐. 디섬 가디나 간지 수수 온 좀 봐. 아니 수수 좀 봐시와 요와 인자 아니 다 디섬 요레스 간지 수수 또 별로 제와 요와 인자 요레스 그러.
So these 3 times are asserted as a substance. So the nature of the substance is there all the time. That's why it says like all 3 times exist in present.
나 지단 제다 따요도 또 디산 저단 수단 원료 사고 저거는 요도 사고 요래와.
So it's a little bit complicated, about these things that when you talk about like substances or the substantial existence and so forth.
근데 본바다 왔다 내 먹어 다다 숨게돌 무언 좀 요레스 대자 제세 요레스.
And so like a vase, can be apprehended in all 3 times, the past time, present, and future times, and its entity can be apprehended, and so therefore it exists substantially.
다 디링 가서 나와 일준대 소요사들이.
And so that's about that. And today we're going to start from the fifth division, the fifth category, which is about the mode of asserting object possessors.
Right? We are there, right? Okay. That they'll namju chenda ani yulaya and the yulchin said there judge lochi and it's any kaza sum the tani jagre dalo dratang not a drata yo dratang and lochi and kaza sum jagres.
And so the object possessor, there are three kinds of object possessor. So that's a sound, and mind, and person.
다 들리는 딱 소 강사 들리는 거.
And then it also mainly it is the person, right? Object possessor.
다 되다. 공부가 좀 강사가 체제다. 아니 이지 남시 강사가 체제 너봐 소소 요비 셔르서 다 되래.
It says like some assert the mere collection of the five aggregates as the illustration of the person asserts the mental consciousness as the illustration of the person, and so on.
어제 다데 셔라모 내가 좁제요. 되나 내도 마다 뭐뭐요. 다 대로 대신라고 그러와.
And so there are like the 18 divisions of the Bhavishka school, and they all each have the different assertions.
아 되나 변에 셔라모 지금 공부가 좁담 대 강사에서 강사세대 가려해서 변에 막 소리나 공부가 좁담 대막 해라 그랬다.
And so one of the school, says that a mere collection of the five aggregates is the person. Like who is Mark? Mark is the mere collection of the five aggregates is Mark.
아니 다 델레치기 전이다. 부모가 쏟던 강사잖아. 아니 부모가 강사 나차려 그래. 강사치도 강사 나차려. 대용고 말해서. 아까
And then somebody pointed a fault on that. It says if you say a mere collection of the five aggregates, so then there will be like five aggregates, there will be like a five person. And so that person says, the other one says that I consider the mental consciousness as the person. And then this is, I think, one of the the Bhavishka, like the Kashmiri Bhavishka.
아디 전세가는 땅가서 강사세 생하면 눈눈이 같이 쉬는 맛이 같이 시발이 되잖아. 난 로고요, 나 대고요, 나 기본도 세치라도 전자 대 시발이 되잖아. 전자 아니 강사세 때 같이 시발이 잡고 어디서 겁나.
So then he's saying that a person has to be the consciousness, the mental consciousness, because it's the mental consciousness that comes from the past life to the present life, and goes from the future past life, present life to the future life, and so it has to be the mental consciousness. So the mental consciousness has to be the person.
아야 강사 찍게 되면 강사 공부가 조금 강사 시작하면 이제 남시 시작하면 공부가 속이 전점 강사 잘해서 그파 찍는 전이 어떻게 되셔서.
And then one says, I'm not going to consider the mere collection of the five aggregates as person. I'm not going to consider the mental consciousness as the person. It is the continuum, of the mere collection of five aggregates. That's the person. So it's like continuing from one to another.
그래서나 아니 그래도 간나 아니 봉봉아잖아요. 지금 뭐 봉봉아는 갱고자야다 아니 나야다 그런데 뒤전에 나 메타도는 샤샤도 고치와시만 로고면도 아니 시바데 샤난들도 야 시발라 당 부모님 바라 파 잠든 저와 요소는 잠든 저와 매워서 그렇죠. 다 텔레 부모가기 전담 샤난들도 그래서 어떻게 권하셔야.
So this the division says that the five aggregate is not not an illustration of person. It cannot be an illustration of person because the five aggregate remains sometime, but then sometimes it disintegrates. When the person when it dies, and then there will be no more person. So and also it is not the mental consciousness, because sometimes it looks like the mental consciousness has connection with the aggregate. Sometimes it looks like it doesn't have connection with the aggregates, and therefore I will consider the continuum of the five aggregates as the person.
어디 다들은 동기들의 몸을 다들 사람하고 그런 건 논대는 때 내지 강사들 그래서
So there are many different kind of assertions like this, but this is all the assertions of the Buddhist schools.
다들 강사 잡았지. 다들 로라 테마다 테미지 로니 어디래.
So that's about the person, and then next is the mind. So there are two kinds of mind. There's the valid cognizers and non-valid cognizers.
다 동보라 뇌들이 제법 제법에 참아니 뇌에서 해야지 간데 카톡판 통대야 리대야 아니 예세들이 좀 먹고 왔더니 뭐시 대통령들랑 뇌에서 참말라 그래서 다 가신 것도 도마도지 진짜 끊어야 아니 딱 끊이 또 그래요 어텔라 대통령들랑 학교들랑 제발라 그래서.
And then the valid cognizer has two type of valid cognizer. There's a valid direct perceiver and valid inferential cognizers. So the valid direct perceiver, is it's the object that's perceived directly without depending on science or reasonings. And then the valid inferential cognizer is cognizing the object through science and reasonings.
다 저도 다 어떤 데로 대치 아래만 대셔 못 잡고 당가서 정말 로릭 장사람도 집어넣은 거.
So since you have already studied about the mind and mental factors, so we don't have to go through all this in detail.
맞지. 단디나 그걸 알인도 매다데 아니 가로. 이참만 다듯이 다 당봉에서라야. 단디 가가지고 내 선이 좀더 뭐 챵바도 내 시라마 도모만 봐. 공부에서 참아 이징에서 만난 중에서 섬요래.
So this again, the valid direct perceiver has three different kind of valid direct perceivers, and of course this is all same as other tenets, but just the explanation of each will be different. So there are three the valid direct perceivers. That's the sensed direct perceiver, mental direct perceiver, and yogic direct perceivers.
나한테 터모만 저 공부에서 이제 참말로 10에 맞춰도 몇 공부에서 이제 참아 임비셔스 몇 공부에서 다 공부도 참아를 해서 근데 터모만 몇 공부 시작하지.
And then it says the valid sense direct perceiver are not pervaded by consciousness because visual sense power is a valid direct perceiver. So this is the uncommon assertion of the Buddhist school. So they are talking about a valid cognizer, which is not consciousness. So like the sense power, or the sense organ, right? So that's like like a glass, thing inside the eye, to which the object appears, and through that, we perceive it. So that object, is called the sense power. So that it's is a valid cognizer, a valid cognizer, yes. So because the object appears to that, therefore the eye consciousness is able to see it. So therefore it is a valid cognizer. If it doesn't appear to that object, then the eye consciousness will not be able to perceive it.
아니 단다 온보티가 많다고 해서 미식된 통통을 말했어. 미식된 통나 미식으로 토면다 꼭 빨아 채놓고 통고 그랬어.
And so that's like say if there is the house doesn't have a window, then you won't be able to see what is inside the house, right? So because the thing object inside the house doesn't appear to the sense power, therefore the eye consciousness is not able to see it. So eye consciousness doesn't have that obstruction. So it doesn't have obstruction, and because there is because it doesn't appear to the sense power, therefore it's not able to perceive it.
Okay, that del tamagan mikombo ngasi mikombo na ombo na kanji ombo nga chasang yore tade.
So there are like the sense power, there's a visual sense power, then there's the olfactory, and then odor and all this. So there are all these 5 sense powers for the 5 senses.
Okay, eji tade tenere wachi. Mikombo tade shirame dotu tumo mai bare kanle suchung do mare.
So this is again, the uncommon assertion of the Vaibhashika schools. So not all the schools later will accept that.
어디시 다듯이. 아 나중에서 세대 간지 나중에서 세대 가는 있다. 옛날만에 봐. 아니 냐바샤댕이 옛날만 똥이지라 나중에서 나기 그래.
And so the yogic direct perceiver, is the object, the object that that is perceived by a yogic mind.
다대 토발라 아니 신의 토고래 신의 토발라 되는 느끼고 그래.
And so that kind of yogic mind, to have that yogic mind, you have to have achieved calm abiding.
다 텐디게 안내 중에서 달라야 가사가 담에서 또 변한 중에서 식당 타이 마타방에서 또 변한 중에서 말하고 니오레스.
And so there are 2 types of yogic direct perceivers. Again, it says yogic direct perceiver that clearly realizes subtlety of the person, and yogic direct perceiver that clearly realizes the subtle impermanence.
어떻지? 답변은 당보디 가르나 가자 따지 라오진이 동화도 변한 중에서 다 라차들이 되지 동화도 변한 중에서 니 요새다 당보디.
So then, the yogic direct perceiver that clearly realizes substance of the person and has 2. The yogic direct perceiver that realizes the emptiness of permanent, partless, independent person, and yogic direct perceiver that realizes emptiness of the self-supporting, substantially existent person.
다 가자 따지 라오진 동화선에 변나 다 나도 남바 시자치와 있나 줄어봐도 그거 가자 따바리 가자 지워버리 가자 라오와레스 어떻게 하려? 다 나도라나 앞에 동화래, 지구의 동화래, 라오의 동화래, 된자 따지 라오지 동화세라고.
And so the the emptiness of the permanent, partless, independent person, right? So according to the non-Buddhist school, they said the person is permanent, is partless, and is independent. But but the Buddhist Buddhist tenet says that the person is empty of permanence, partless, and independence.
예전에 가사 따바면 이제 고소 가르쳐 올랍소.
So what did I mention? What did I say about the non-Buddhist school asserting the person as permanent? Why do they assert person as permanent?
그래서 다 가지고 그러고 따바를 납치하고 그러나서 인생 요래.
So they have a reason to call person permanent, right? They have a reason to assert the person is permanent, right? They're not saying, oh, just like that, just without any reason. They're not just saying just like that, Right?
Remember what I said?
Because they don't have a way to explain karma, then like how our actions can have results in future lives, right? That would be.
그래서
They don't have a karma?
No, they don't have a way to explain it that without
The karma shetoyo 말했어.
without positing a permanent, partless, independent self. They have no way to explain how an action in one life can have results in another.
알죠?
건설라 le junde kola dene 대시자요 말했어. 이제 강사들 데네 레라타네 데네 소소소 레라타네 데네 기와 정말랜도 거래 되게 된 부분 거서 데네 게 군주 셰트고 말했어. 이제는 군주 딱 벌써 그랬어.
Really? Okay, Bob. 내 말에 그나 가사 써야 되나? 어디는 누스 그나 나च्या와 하마지 용서. 제와 먹어방아지 간지 다큐멘터리 도고서 타와 도고서 간지 내만 누스까지 내게 깨와 한마 내 깨와 한마 내 깨와 심어도 뭐뭐 셔도 되네 가서 따버리셔스.
No, that's not it. The reason why they call person permanent is because the person is there all the time. The person is there in the past life, and then the past life, in the past life before, like since beginningless time. There's there all the time. And then this is the person who goes, until one achieves liberation all the way. So therefore the person is there all the time, therefore person is permanent.
그러나 그걸 딱 깨와로 토마에 맞나 그 너무하지도 여와도 시작이 올라왔어. 깨와로 토마에 말했어. 깨와로 토마에 맞나 딱그 깨와 뭐뭐 딱그 딱 버려서 거다.
So they also say that there's no beginning to the life, right? There's no beginning. So you can't say, okay, that was this life, and then before that there was no more life like that. You can't say that, right? There was no life before that. There was life. There was another life before that. There's another life before that. So when you go back like that, you can't, reach to the beginning and say, okay, this is where it started from. So therefore, it's called a beginningless. And therefore, because there's, because the person is there since beginningless time, therefore, person is permanent.
내가 신바지를 그변에 깨왕 엄마 레사셔변 내가 단단 용어에 되었어. 제가 거다 매나고 저는 해마 제주 단단 용어요 말했어.
And then the other thing is they're saying that the person can experience the result of the past life in the present time. So if there was no person in the past who have created the karma, then how can the person in present can experience the result of that? So therefore the person was there all the time. And so therefore it's a permanent.
제가 그때 따발하다. 자 남중도 따바다 못하다 깨지깨지 지금도면들라야 못따바 민징이들라 따발라 그러와.
So normally when we talk about permanent and impermanence, the impermanent is something that changes or disintegrates moment by moment, and then permanent is something that remains all the time.
제가 나도는 빼나 남도 빼나 당 빼나 가자고는 단단가 로 가지고 용업 중 갔는데 간신 가도 하고 하지는 가로 찍네 단답 어려웠어.
And so like for in the case of myself, I'm 53 years old now, right? So I was there. I'm there since I was 1 year old, right?
오케이. 다 그걸 대상 거. 다 공해만 다 경험만 경험은 다 따버려 샤고 삼거는 거. 지금 말하고 걸라고 말다. 그런 다 시에다 계산 줘다.
So they're saying like that. And so because it's there all the time, right? From that time and up to this time, and we'll be there into the future again. So therefore it's permanent. They're not saying that it doesn't change moment by moment or it changes moment by moment. They're not talking about that.
And 저 자좀 맞도봐야 로를 기와시만로 되고 걸린 거로.
So they also accept that you have to keep on taking rebirth, right? One after another till you achieve the state of arhat.
And 그 드네다 그 따버려라고 다 따버려스.
So therefore it's a permanent.
Okay. 그래서 고성다다르다 고성다다 내만 누다나 따버려셔 그러게.
So because it exists all the time, since before a long time before, therefore it is permanent. That's their thinking.
뭐? 아, 근데 아니 그 제가 제가 뭐 때문에 아니 지워레스 지워.
뭐 차치를 때문에.
그러. 지워. 아니 차치를 때문에 거 인자 아니 그런 지워레스까지 두거레스.
So it's a partless because it doesn't depend on its parts. So without depending on any of the parts, it can exist by itself. So therefore, it's called partless.
근데 제가 맞대 라와레스.
And it is independent, not depending on any causes and conditions.
라자 그래 따셔롱지 다 켈랭에 주고 가로. 그러나 난 조선 대신 노래들이. 아까 따치 따바와 지워 라와서 켈레베다 드리려고 그러와.
So that's how they accept, right? There's the Chirubar killing, right? So this is the non-Buddhist, non-Buddhist school, who asserts, that a person is a permanent, partless, and independent.
나도 또 말해다. 강사세도 못하버려. 끼치끼치 지기로 그래. and tapa marela but
And then, so we have also that apprehension, right? In the regular people, they have that apprehension. But then, so Buddha says, no, it is not like that. The person is empty, of permanence, partless, and independent.
제가 들리다 안에 다체 롱지 동아래 다체 롱지 접고 말해서 제가 다체 롱지 동아 또 맨날 좀 지요래서
So therefore, it doesn't, it's empty of existing, as permanent, partless, and independent.
okay a little bit make sense in 테마도 가르나 건조 가로 야 오케이 되지 다 차이 못 따와서 간지 못 따와 참모 또 맨날 좀 하려고 봐 그냥 나라서 겐도 그래 나도 겐도 같아 any time 못 따와 오는 또 신기 바로
들어가 나오죠. 근데는 가서 아니도 뭐 제도 봐.
아 대단한 얼마야 우리야
야.
Can I ask a question?
yes
Did you say that the impermanent, that the independent, what meant independent of causes and conditions?
그래서
라오마스도 6년 때 먹어서 그래.
라와는 지질라 때 먹어 왔다 다 지질라 때 거한데 안에 제가 지질라 때 거나 라와에 또 왔어
Yes, that's right.
지질라 때 먹으면 라와 차로 다 지질라 때 먹어 라와 왔어
So if you don't have to depend on the cause and condition, then you're independent. And so because you have to depend on cause and condition, therefore you are empty of independence.
그래서 저런 라와가 막 지질 가르쳐 주래서
So like you don't have an independence. It depends on you depend on cause and conditions.
okay
How did they posit the effects of karma then?
그래서
Sorry, can I say again?
Then how would they account for karma if this was some person, some self that was independent of causes and conditions?
그래서
How could there be any actions that
더 그러나 6개월 때 먹어 라와이나. And then 그런 저기는 레준데 컨디션이랬어. 그는 레준데 레라 뜨고 말해봤어 그랬어.
아데 그런도 다 나도 자주 뭐시로 자주면서 쉬어 있다고 하던데 트릭군도 대 담보도 나 디나들 다 쉬어 있다고도 쉬어 다들 맞다고다
So yeah, that is their view. The non-Buddhist and some non-Buddhist school that's called Samkhayas. That's their view to say that. But that is explained in the first chapter, of the Buddhist science by His Holiness. So we have to go through that. We have to learn that to understand this.
okay 다 차이 못 와서 배는 알아서 배는 이래 지도 그래 아니 나도 시험 통고 말아 다 실로는 자도 신도도 아니 지금 도로 나도 신도 통도 와
So the emptiness of the self-supporting or substantially existent person, and it will come more in detail later. Then next is the Yogi-Dharma perceiver analyzing subtle selflessness, and also the selflessness, subtle impermanence. Clearly realizes subtle impermanence. 가능성가 처음에 나버디.
아직 딱 나도 통 맡아봐까지 맡아봐 참고제로 와 나라도 이래 개로 그때 땡아도 신금도 다도 차이 맡아봐 자대 그래
So the impermanence, is the changes happening, right? In anything that's happening, changes happening in anything, and so the changes happening that we can see is the gross impermanence. The changes happening that we can't see is the subtle impermanence. We are growing every day, right? We don't see that. We don't see that every day, moment by moment, or every day by day. We're growing older and older. We don't see that day by day. Maybe we see in a couple of years and they say, oh yeah, that person now is very old, like that. But that's in a couple of years you see that. You don't see that change happening in day by day. So that is subtle impermanence.
되지 다 담보 가다다면 내가 맨날 중에 들어야 니오레스 가다 따지 라운지 동화도 맨날 중에 지다 란자되게 되지 또 맨날 중에 니오레스 가자 그다음에 라바도 맨날 중에 지다 참모도 맨날 중에 니오레스
다디가라 가서 다 담에 도서 들어.
다음에 됐어. 말. 아무 거다 담은 데서 나중에 타임마다 방에도 나 가서 담은 게 나중에서라 양 지금 세질라 아니 니샤도 담보라 하지도
이거 나도 따져 나가죠. 너왜 나다 안에 완전히 제일 좋다.
그냥 대시 잡자래.
따져 나가는데 잡자. 되게 저는 안에 완전히 제일 좋은 데라는 제일 걸 수도.
알레레오데 따딕 다 오다도 나 라체데 간지 때리니 샹도 라체데 되지 또 나중에서 니 요새도
네.
나 라체데 되다 간지 라체 와야 태양 미장에서 밑에 라체데 올 배양으로 소페나 탭도 지 로바 마고 수수 제타와들 라체 와스 아니 수수 제마도 젤라 땡고들 라체 마토바나 그러와.
And so that the yogi direct perceiver that realizes the emptiness of self-supporting or substantially existing in a person is like self-supporting. So what do we mean self-supporting? Is like without depending on the like say you want to do something and you're able to do it by yourself without depending on the books or movies or videos, like without depending on this, you're able to do by yourself. So that's like self-supporting.
제가 당도 가자데 라체 TV 되지 또 라체 투고 말이 부모가 땡고 그랬어. 부모가 땡고와 연자 부모가 가르라 야마 때 땡고자 라체 투고 말이 라체 TV 또 그랬어.
So that therefore the person is not self-supporting because it has to depend on the five aggregates. So it has to depend on five aggregates. So therefore it's not self-supporting and it's empty of self-supporting.
Okay. 아드네라고 당가도 들 맞드네라고지. 아드네 다 두바 담에 둬서 넣으세.
So that's about it for that. And then the sixth one is the mode of asserting selflessness.
아 담에 참어다 가사가 담에 참어 된다 치바레스. 주지 담에 kellanga 말레스 와.
It says subtle selflessness and the subtle selflessness of person and are mutually inclusive. Selflessness of person, selflessness of phenomena is not asserted.
제자 아니 제트나 간에 주지 담에 kell나 주담에 칼레 주지 다도 잡아 kell나 주지 담에 kellanga 말레스.
So because the Vaibhashikas assert that established base is provided by self of phenomena. And therefore there's no selflessness of phenomena.
다 주지 다도 잡아 kell나 가시라 간지 주로 된데 잡아 아니 넘버 잡아 kell나 있나 아니 주지 다도 잡아 kell나 그래.
So if you assert the external objects to exist truly, then you assert the self of phenomena.
아니 넘버 잡아 kell나 주로 된데 잡아 kell나 그래. 아 주지 다도 잡아 kell나 그래.
So if you assert the true existence, true existence, then you also assert the self of phenomena.
제가 나는 시라마와다 너대와 이게 아니 주지다 들어봐 kell나 그래. 주지 담에 kell나 말해.
So both Vaibhashika and Sautantika asserts the self of phenomena. And so they don't assert the selflessness of phenomena.
아 담에 타쇼데 가리 다 또야 나도 고면 타쇼데 가리 아니 가사 담에 참 못해레스.
And then what is the most difficult to meditate on is the selflessness, the subtle selflessness of phenomena. I mean, subtle selflessness of person.
다 대대 가다 라차 TV 대지 동화대 다 담에 참 못해봐.
And so now the emptiness of the self-supporting and substantially existent person, is the subtle selflessness of person.
아니 가다 따제라 이 동화대 가다 담에 라바 남기샤고 그래.
And then the emptiness of the permanent, partless, and independent of person, is the gross selflessness of person.
다시 도도체나 간지 셔라마베 그 담에 참 못해 가려놓나 가사 담에 대 담에 차쇼더래. 고미야 딱 고미야 따원 타두여나면 되레스.
And so, according to the Vaibhashic school, the selflessness of person, is the subtlest of the selflessness. And so that is the most subtle selflessness to meditate on. Is the selflessness of person.
다 대월 다 녀라 사실들 다 대남지 나네 내마밥에 아니 따지라고 이제 또 그다가 담에 캐 밀레지 디 라자데비 되지 캐 가로 담에 캐 렌지스 라자데비 되지 또 그다가 담에 캐 밀레디 디 풍보다 오직다 타데다 아마다 간도 주든 라자데비 되지 다 캐입니다. 근데 뉴로 사쇼래.
So this is very complicated one. The next line, and so there says among them the Basiputriyan assert a selflessness of person, that is an emptiness of permanent, partless, and independent. However, they do not assert a selflessness of a person, that is an emptiness of being self-supporting or substantially existent, because they assert the self-supporting, substantially existent self that is neither one entity with nor different entity from the aggregates, neither permanent nor impermanent, but is inexpressible.
Then 나 가다 찍으죠. 근데 가다 찍을 때 말이야. 아니 많고 되었어요. 많고 된 거지. 저도 단 가서 그래서 토바로 옹아요. 관계가 되는 거죠.
And so this is example of the one of the school, right? So Basiputriyan, but then there's other 5 schools. There's group of 5 schools in the Babashka group of schools. I mean Babashka divisions, and they also accept in the same way.
Then there's only Omatawashiraki and 가로 자시 라비 고아 어떻게 나리는 거죠.
So this is excellent in the fundamental wisdom, in the 9th chapter of the fundamental wisdom.
제가 다디 가다 안에 가다 따시로 진지 안에 또 담에 켈베 텐트같이 대콘 내가 대콘 되다.
And so according to them, there is emptiness of the permanent, partless, and independent person. So that's okay. That part is okay. They accept that.
아고 녀라서 간제 라자 TV 제지 또 가다 담에 kel토 놀라다고.
So what he's saying is that he cannot accept the emptiness of the self-supporting or substantially existent person.
다 그러지라고 나 가사디 풍보도 찍으려면 놀라다.
홍보가사?
풍보도 찍으려면 다 찍는 오 찍으려면 가사디 풍보도 오 찍으려면 놀라.
So that is because the person is not one, with the aggregates.
대이나 풍보가 요와서 안에 가사가 잘하고.
So if it is one with the person, one with the aggregates, then since there are 5 aggregates, there will be 5 persons.
다야 대다 타대려면
And it's not separate from the person. I mean, from the aggregates, it's not different from aggregates.
안에 풍보를 아니 내서 쇼와이나 안에 가사들 내서 쇼스라고도 와.
Because whenever things happen to an aggregate, they say, oh, it happened to the person.
그래서 가상에 수보 못하 담니 기실을 못하 답소서 줘서 용거로 가서 타이데.
So like, for example, when I had an accident, my body got into accident, then you say, oh, Geshe got into accident.
제가 간제 풍부 인도 들어갈 때는 강사된 인도 들어가거든. 대사 못하대 레벨들하다.
Because of things changing in the aggregate, they say the things changed in the person, and therefore it is not different. Therefore, person is not different from the aggregates.
아야 풍부 강사대 강사 샘도는 텔레지 강의 올 때는 양 풍부 그로 같은 내용도 왔어. 내가 딱 못하대 전에 레벨들 laptop입니다. 무슨 말이지? 강사들 양 결혼도 할 때는 양이 풍부를 결혼도 하는 것도 같아. 대사 안에 못하대 전에 샤도하면 돼.
And then by things changing in the person, then also that will cause the things to change in the aggregate. Therefore, they cannot be different.
아, 따봐야면 돼.
And then, apa the Bible killing girl?
아, 그 따봐야면 돼. 다 따봐면 이제 내가 가려서나. 아니.
Apa Bible killing girl?
따마다 간데 주네. 따봐면 맞다와 니가 다 골라도 돼. 따발랍도 돼. 가지 가자 싫어도 아니 봉보 메타 파샤도 돼. 다 그 따발랍도 돼야.
And then it says that I cannot say that the aggregate is permanent because the aggregate dies and it gets cremated, and so therefore it's not permanent.
아니 다 못하버려라 문제야.
And says you cannot say that this is impermanent as well.
그래서나 야 가다 됐다 가지 레사바보 레브 용어보 가디는 둡스 다든다고 이다.
That is because the person who is creating the cause and who's experienced the result is always there.
제가 다 되네라고 되네 가사지 가지 다랍 못해요 가사지 둡스 되네 되네 가사 아니 라자데 되지 딱 해는 그랬어.
And so there is a such kind of person, such kind of person who cannot be, who cannot be posited as one with aggregate or different from aggregate, who cannot be posited as positive and as prominent or positive as impermanent. So there is such kind of person. So that for that person, I would say sub-supporting.
어다때 랑미드스는 다 뭔가 시라나마 봐와서 뭔가 된가 어디를 랑미드를
And so this and this is the Basiputriyan and the other the divisions, the 5 divisions of the Vaibhashika school who asserts that.
제가 다 남비가 그냥 개박하시게 제타 제나 시라나마 봐와대 따위 전에 남바가 저좀 줘 말해서라고 그래. 랑미드 요래.
So because of this, there's some of the experts, some of the experts, say that the Basiputriyan, is the Vaibhashika school, one of the Vaibhashika school, Basiputriyan, is not Buddhist, from the viewpoint of view.
근데 주마야가 뭐지? 주마야가 말했어.
So they don't even smell as a Buddhist from that point of view.
아양 개박하지 대 말이 가자 따제 롱지 아니 다음에 캘런데 때 리얼에스 아니 따위치는 남발에 다 쉬게 캘는 이바지.
So but some experts, some learned ones, says that, oh, that's okay as long as they accept, the person, the emptiness of the prominence, partless and independent person, then that's okay. That can be considered as Buddhist from the viewpoint.
오케이 다때 시당 담으라 못 간다. 나도 때 시당 다 하고는 이거 당데 제대 간제 소소 제대로 시야요로.
And so you have to just understand, the reason why they call like that. Now, of course, there can be a correct or an incorrect. You can argue about that, but the main thing is what they explain and why. What is the reason behind their assertion like that?
제자 가수로. 아니 난 디콜이야 단 남주변에 시라마가 콜이야 변에 딱세로 따와나 저 최초도 내래. 저 투쇼도 내는 거예요.
So when we debate on this topic, on the Vaibhashika school topic, then this is the most the hot topic, that most people debate on.
제자 아니 안다 그럽제가 아니 따위 전에 남비가 주마야가 말했어요 송을.
그래서
그럽제 아무도 자사제된 그럽제. 그럽제 따위 전에 아니 시란 남아 보고라 남비 주마야가 말했어요 송을.
So the Kedubje, Kedu Rinpoche, one of Lama Tsongkhapa's main disciple, says that Basiputrians don't even have the order of Buddhist from that point of view, from the viewpoint of view.
옛날야 쇼베 전에 남발했어.
But in terms of the conduct, they are Buddhists.
오케이 다 같은데 강탈 아니 강사 다음에 야 가시가 아니 가다 다음에 캘래 그래 라자데 다 저거 캘래 개요 말 가지 다음에 캘래 그랬어 거기 지요야.
And then so some says that even though they don't accept the emptiness of the self-supporting or substantially existent person, but they do accept selflessness of person.
제자 아니 가사 따제 롱지 네 가로 따제 롱지 다음에 캘래 말에 되 그랬어.
Because they accept, the emptiness of permanent, particle, and partless and independent person. If they accept that, then that is sufficient to be a Buddhist from the perspective of view.
뭐 기타들으로 당하던 걸 맞대서 뒤뒤시로 인다 되네 샤긴다.
Yeah. So, okay. So now we're going to
I have a question.
review.
Okay, yeah, Deborah.
So are there any groups of practitioners that identify as Vaisaputra now, or is it sort of a thing from the past?
Ade kaje sharame temba tayo na tanate pajitende yode.
Yeah, there might be if the Babashkan teaching is still alive.
Ina kawayo denga hago me ta nete de kono yogori na.
But I cannot say where are they and which group practices that and where are they. I can't tell that.
Na sharama ba mita bena nyogo ba da kaje sharama da ka sani chani mika ka ta do.
So like the Babashka school, has like 3 divisions, right? From the the geographically they are divided into 3 different like Kashmiri, Aprantakas, and Magadas, like that.
Tende yode yoro.
So I'm sure there are still practitioners of those views.
Moya. Tango gol machi dodo do wa yana. Ani sharame na la ya ani phumbo nga chodam kadare la me chik. Ode maris yeji namshi kadare la me chik. Oda phumbo ga jun kodare la ko zum desa mada sum chong wa.
And so there's in terms of the person, right, object possessor. And so the object possessor, there's the person, mind, and the sound. So the person, as there are like 2-3 different kinds, they illustrated. One says the mere collection of aggregate. And the other one says no, it is the mental consciousness. The other says no, it is just the continuum of the 5 aggregates.
Tinani namju bena phumbo nga chodam kadare se do de ani sharana ma pa dewa de res la do. Tan do ya
it is the Basiputrian school of the Vaibhashika school who accepts that the mere collection of 5 aggregate as a person.
Ani hiji namshi kadare se de shara ani karo kaje shara ma res.
And then the mental consciousness as a person is asserted by the Kashmiri Vaibhashikans.
Humbu jendo de kadare su ya mo ina tan do ya shetan ramra kele shunga ga dragam do.
But I don't know which division of the Vaibhashika school asserts the continuum of the 5 aggregates as a person.
Ochi 다들 마다 달로 시발라 간에 제마다 제마만 니어테 남중가서 하고 와치 바로 말로 따서와.
So the mind, then talks about the 2 kinds of mind, valid cognizers and non-valid cognizers. So we know that already, right? That's very similar from what we have already studied, when we studied the mind and mental factors or object.
다 아니 당봉에서 되지. 아니 다 당보라 아니 녜수지 테마 제스바베 세마들라 녜수도 제스바베 대치 바이 바지.
Then the valid cognizer has 2, the drug perceiver and inferential perceiver, valid drug perceiver and valid inferential perceiver. That's similar.
아니 다 당보 온봉에들라 아니 온봉에 이징에서 니마시가 말 난중에서 맨날 니마시면 와지. 아니 샴바도이나 라링에서 다 라링 만들면 니나 라링 파비사리.
And then there's the valid cognizer. So the drug valid cognizer, or valid drug perceiver, has 3.
야 온봉 이징 나요 라링에서 남주세요. 라링 도게도 라링에서 샤워와.
So there's a 3. There's a sense drug perceiver, mental drug perceiver, and yogi drug perceiver. So because they don't assert the self cognizer, therefore there's no self cognizer drug perceiver. But those who assert that will have a 4 division here.
Then 하고가 가르치 가르나 간터 세마이나 시바이고 말레스 강사이고 말레스.
So, and the other thing to understand here in this school, particularly in this school, an uncommon assertion of this school is that if it is a valid cognizer, doesn't have to be a consciousness, doesn't have to be a person. So this is again uncommon assertion of this school.
다디 올마 양sam다 가사 다 경비시바 분들다 다음에 도트 갑라야 간터 아니 추지 다음에 켈랑 마전나 추다인 거 그래 추지 답 잡은 거 그래 데코런도 뭐 치래.
And then the yogic direct perceiver, has two, right? The clear realizes that, clear realizes the selfless person, and then clear realizes the subtle impermanence. So there's no selflessness of phenomena, because if it is an established object, then it has to be a self of phenomena.
다들 솔직히 반로라대. 나고 주가 다면도 지고 갈래야. 그래서
This.
다면도 갈래가 이제 다음에 참고 차쇼도 갔나? 아나 가다 다음에 참고들레스. 데레라 네 추이 다음에 이 오마레스. 네 추이 다음에 잡아레스.
The mode of asserting selflessness, if it is a selflessness, it has to be the selflessness of person. The subtlest to selflessness is the selflessness of person. There's no other than selflessness of person. The selflessness of phenomena is not asserted, because if it is a established object, then it is pervaded by self of person, self of phenomena.
아니 추지 다들 잡으려나 갈라나 덴바 잡아고. 아니 쇼로 텐데 잡아 켈라나. 아니 추지 다들 잡아 켈레들라 그래스.
So what does it mean by self of phenomena? So so if it exists as self of phenomena, then it has to exist truly, or it has to exist externally. So those who assert the external existence and the and then exists as truly, is considered as a self of phenomena.
제가 덴바 잡아리 쇼로 텐데 잡아 덴바 잡아 켈레 메시기 간도 튀니라 요스.
Yeah, because the Bible school asserts, the true existence, right? Therefore, okay. They assert the self of phenomena.
어때하고 그 직치 다디 올라 아니 사람에게 아니 나마바와 세디 간제 쇼 가다 담이 쇼지 켈레 쇼지 켈레 말해서 와 라자 다체 롱오지 담에 켈레 바나 라자 되게 되기다. 근데 봉보다 땅고 지 따바카야 좀 맞게 되지 켈레 그래 가사시.
So then there's the selfness of selfness of a person. There's a gross and the subtle, right? The gross one is the emptiness of permanent, partless, and independent self, an independent person. And then there's the subtle one is the emptiness of the self-supporting or substantial existing person. And then there is one school, particularly like the Bible, Vasiputriyan school of the Bible school, who asserts the emptiness of permanent, partless, independent person, but who do not assert the emptiness of the self-supporting or substantially existing person.
아니 다 배나 남바 가시가 아니 곧 다외치는 남바 말이랑 그래서 가시가 레스 원하고 있는데 단도 더 많이 그래서.
And some Buddhists, says that they are not Buddhists, from the view perspective, but some says, yeah, there's, because they accept one of them, and therefore they are Buddhists from the view perspective.
Okay, let's finish. Okay, now what's the last? We have homework. We forgot.
No, we're comparing the possibilities between a Hinayanist and a proponent of Hinayana tenets, and then also a Mahayanist and a proponent of Mahayana tenets.
Yeah, how many possibilities? Okay. How about you guys? You hear? Who did the homework? You're not just thinking now. Who did the homework? Raise your hand. Okay, it looks everyone did. You just thinking that doesn't work. If you did homework, then you already think. Okay, who would like to say? Yeah, maybe. Who's going to say? Yeah, Rika.
The difference of the Mahayana and proponent of Mahayana tenets. I thought of bodhicitta because the method and wisdom and method, the method proponent to Hinayana tenets are the wisdom side and of Anami Mahayana, and then Mahayanist, what the entering Mahayana is the bodhicitta method side is entering the Mahayana. And the difference of Hinayanist and the proponents of Hinayana tenets, I thought maybe it's a renunciation. The Hinayanist are, I don't know, it was to be free from samsara, but proponents of Hinayana tenets could be not non-Buddhist, but could argue it's not, yeah, they don't have a renunciation. I don't know, that's what I thought.
Okay. Everyone listen there, okay? And you guys have decided she's right or wrong. Okay, done one. Then you. Then you're right. I couldn't really see much. Then Denver. You hear me? Next to me is
Andrew
Denver, right?
Geshe, and you said Andrew?
Oh, Andrew, sorry. Oh, Andrew. You see, even I wear the glass, I couldn't really see. Andrew,
Wait, oh yeah. One thing I was thinking about is the last part, which talks about like the Buddha superior does not accept like a complete enjoyment body. So what I'm kind of wondering is the difference of between a Hinayana and a Mahayana is, does the Hinayana want to, like, they kind of want the solitary, they want to realize emptiness for themselves, while the Mahayana does not want the enjoyment body because it still wants to continue to help other beings and continue to help them realize emptiness. Like, although what I'm trying to ask is, although a superior, like this line, although a superior has abandoned all suffering, its origins without exception, does not contradict that he's still true suffering in this continuum. So before like that bodhisattva goes on to complete nirvana, is it trying, as the motivation is to stay behind until every single being everywhere realizes emptiness along with it?
okay. It looks maybe you didn't get the,
homework question.
yeah, I think you didn't go the homework
wasn't to
questions, yeah.
compare- It wasn't to
Yeah.
compare the Mahayana here, it was how many possibilities.
Yeah, can you explain? Can you explain like that? The question
To
is,
explain or to
yeah, the question is,
Yeah, the question is, the first question, how many possibilities between a Hinayanist and a proponent of Hinayana tenets? Are there 3 possibilities, 4 possibilities? Are they mutually exclusive, mutually inclusive? And then the same question was for.
yeah, I think you, Andrew and Rika, you both explained what means Mahayana, what's Hinayana. They both like that. Okay, Devra. First question, how many possibilities? Hinayanist and Hinayana tenets.
I said that there are 4.
Okay, now first give me the example. If someone's a Hinayanist but not Hinayana tenets. You guys listen her, okay? I mean, she's right or wrong, who knows?
Okay. Hinayanist would not have someone who is working for the enlightenment towards all sentient beings, but they believe in the Vaibhashika view.
What do you say? What do you say?
Their goal is to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all sentient beings, but their view of tenets is Vaibhashika.
So what is that?
No,
What is
yeah. My question is, give the example, someone's a Hinayanist but not Hinayana tenets.
Oh, I thought you said that. Sorry, reversed. Okay. So
Give me others. Maybe
okay,
I
Hinayana
did
is
reverse.
working for self-liberation, but they do not, they believe the self is permanent.
No, as I give example.
Isn't that an example?
Yeah, give me an example.
Like of a person who's
Someone's a Hinayanist but not Hinayana tenets, right?
right. So they're working for self-liberation,
Okay.
but they believe the self is permanent. not that it does exist.
내리 차와요 뭐라.
So you're saying the person who is working for their liberation, but do not accept the person as impermanent.
Correct.
So that person is a Hinayanist, but is not a proponent of a Hinayanist tenet.
Yes.
오케이.
That,
오케이. 제가
그거죠.
하야고 주실랍대야.
예, 다 그런 거서 소소치도 타바토바라 좀 봤지. 이나야 강사들 미다바케 밀레마들. 밀레게 내 강사저라. 내내 강사들 때문에
서서지 타와서 가다 못 타와 캐mel게 돼.
내내 강사디 아니 그더 테메 버레스 이나 테메베 두다마 말레스.
근데 대 싫어 넘어보다 데려와. 아 가다 땅마다 가다 저라 저 데이터 캐랭으로 와. 가다 못 타.
That is the one that you're talking about. Is the Vasiputriya.
Right.
대다 그 지대 때문에 저담을 거다가 돼. 대 싫어 먹어라.
Yeah, the Vasiputriyan, is the proponent of the Hinayana tenets, right?
Okay, that doesn't work. Okay, now give the other one. And some of the Hinayana tenets, but not Hinayanist.
Okay. So they believe in the Vaibhasika view, but they are working for the enlightenment of all sentient beings.
Okay. Jeremy Tawa Kidenge. Where
Take
some
your
of the sky. Ah. So
제대로
the sky.
더 켈랭기 and 택진 봤어.
Okay. Who are that? Which do you have any examples?
Well, I think you mentioned that someone on the path of seeing who is a Mahayanist.
Yeah.
So someone
Yeah,
who
that's
is
it.
on the path of seeing will have a Vaibhashikan view.
No,
But it's nobody.
sorry.
Okay, then
So
you
someone
are
who is
bad.
on the Mahayana path of seeing, with the Vaibhashika view.
Let me see if I have to think about that.
Okay, it's okay, it's okay. Okay, you got everyone got it right. She's kindly, but she's not correct, right? Okay, now Jennifer, you have Bob, who have? Okay, give me the example for that was a Hinayanist, but not Hinayanist tenets.
I'm wondering if Vasubandhu would be an example because he converted, would he still be a Hinayanist, but then a proponent of Mahayana tenets because,
What is Mahayana tenets?
propounded Chittamatra. I mean, when he
그걸 받아받으시로 로인이로.
로빈이야.
로인이 내 때문에
테메
전담
바레스.
먹었다.
얘네 테메 두다마 많이 있어.
때문에 전담을 개개 말해.
He's the teacher of the proponent of Hinayana tenets. You see?
he was originally proponent of like Satantrika.
이거 단지 말해서.
But then he's still a Hinayanist. He's probably on a path, right? I mean, he's like a very realized being. So wouldn't he have been on a Hinayana path, but then propounding Mahayana tenets?
된 건 된다 그러는데 이쪽으로 와.
뭐다 뭐나서는다 테메 바제 안에 대정이 두다마.
야. 대신 전담이 제지인데.
대정이 두다마게 제는 테메 바사.
대신 전담하고 인데.
So he's a proponent of the Mahayana tenet, right?
Yes.
Why?
And the reason is
Isn't because didn't he help to establish the Chittamatra school?
huh?
Like a sangha converted him, right? And
Yeah, that's good. What do you think, Bob? What do you example?
A Hinayana Arhat, because they're a Hinayanist, but they realized emptiness directly, so they have Mahayana view, Mahayana tenets.
You sure?
Yeah. If they realize emptiness directly,
Ale, Tony, everything, the Tony Rova.
네, 돈이 뭐 스토바에서 다 마야나게 다 테네레스. 돈이 뭐 스토바에서 다 대쟁을 두다 마레스.
Okay, Jennifer, you have to have some debate him. Well, you guys have some debate. You guys some debate, Deborah, you have some debate, Bob and Jennifer. You guys thinking?
Yeah.
Okay, we just check very time. It's okay. It makes sense. Yeah, we said, how about Buddha Shakyamuni?
Shakyamuni would be
Is-
neither, right? You would be not a Hinayanist and not a proponent of Hinayanist tenets.
Is any honest? Is not, he doesn't go. Yentu ba marwa, yentu taname kaza marwa. Hemiji taname kaza.
So Buddha Shakyamuni is the proponent of the Hinayana tenet, right?
yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Proponent of
And it, yeah, proponent
Mahayana.
minor tenets. They're not contradict.
Part of both.
That's good.
Different students, he taught different.
Yeah, different theory. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good answer. What do you guys think of that?
So I'm going to give you the
Yeah,
answer, but don't depend on that also, okay?
Okay, this is complicated. 당에 변에 테메바 임발라, 근데 테메 전담을 가다 시작이다.
이자 이게.
테메바 임발라, 테메 전담을 많이 돼.
All right. So now I'm going to give an example of a Hinayanist who is not a proponent of Hinayana tenet.
예, 니 오마 라제바치에 니는 도망봐. 아니, 나 취재서로. 오마 라제바치에 니는 도망봐. 오마 라제바잉이 니는 도망지라 제 되거든.
Mhm. So it's like someone who has who is on the hero's path of seeing, who realizes the view, you know, of the Sautantika Madhamika.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yeah, what do you say? 대간나 테메바잉이 테메 전담을 많이 되네.
So he's the Hinayanist because he's on a hero's path of seeing, right? Hinayanist, but he doesn't propound the Hinayana tenets.
아주 그 태화침부터 남아고 오마라지 바로.
Because he's the Sautantika Madhamika, right? Sautantika Madhamika.
You got it? You guys got that? Andrew, you guys got it, right? My answer is right. If it's right or wrong, you can also debate, okay? Karo, 다시 말 Karo. What's the next one?
다 태명을 다 마와다 태명을 많이.
Okay.
테메 전담하고 강사 영예가 테메가 많이 시작으로.
네.
옛 남중아들 아니 라마 셀리베 개개 담아라체다래 지금 간지 샤좀 토람 주된 것이. 라고래. 아니 샤라마고래 이나야 테메지 가로. 바로
더 마말.
which one?
태명 더 마래. 이나 태명바 말했어.
오예 테메지 전담하고래 가인다 샤라마고래. 나 테메바 말에 태와지 가가래스.
So like Lama Atisha's teacher, Suvarna Dibipi, so he Lama Selingba, he is he's a Mahayanist, but he propounds the Hinayana tenets. So he's someone who propounds the Hinayana tenet, but he's not a Hinayanist.
Lama Selibek Gege, Lama Selibek Kono in Homeda, Lama Selibek Gege, Damaracheta Lajor, Damarashida.
And then same with his teacher, Lama Selingba's teacher, Damarashida.
제가 단다 general line 이제 바지 로이니도 바로
태명을 두다 마와인스.
대명을 든다 마오이
in a
테메바
Temeba.
많이 쓰는 야 대반 되게 저래야.
So just like Jennifer said, also that can be true. Like Vasubandhu, is the proponent of the Hinayana tenet, but he's not a Hinayanist.
오케이.
That's later when he converted into Mahayana.
오케이. 다 후긴 거다 데브라인다. 데브라인다. 테미제 전담마 강사다 테메바 니가 계셔도.
So now, Deborah, can you give an example of someone who is a proponent of the Hinayana tenet and who is also a Hinayanist?
It would be someone working for self-liberation who believes that self does not exist permanently, partlessly, or independently.
오케이. 오케이. 야, 제니퍼.
You could just say a Sautrantrika on the hearer's path of seeing, but I had an example of Kashyapa. Would he be?
가샤바서
Kashyapa, 오승.
산지고수. 예.
상계마, 나 Kashyapa 오승 시험을 나 여러 가지 산.
다치 고수.
년도 오승.
고수. 예. 예 가는 나 데리. 제가 테메 바인바 테메 트다마니까. Okay, good. Deborah,
Yeah,
good.
so that can be both, right? The Kashyapa is the Hinayanist and the proponent of Hinayana school, Hinayana tenets.
제가 던 데브라라에 따다 요되네요. 데려야 최정에는 최면 자야 고 취지 미세 매와 있다.
You can, but Deborah, the example that you give, is if you can say there's someone, like that, that can be correct, but there's always becomes a subject for debate.
Okay.
Because you don't have a
Deborah,
specific example.
데브라처럼 게 니 테메가 전담하고 많이 테메바 많이 계셔도.
So Deborah, can you give now example of an example of the thing that is neither Mahayana and Hinayanist nor the proponent of Hinayanist tenet?
Would be a Christian.
Really, Shashala.
대신 지든 잠배잖아 그러. 이제 마마 지든 잠배잖아. 그 테메 보면 테메 트다면 거는 말어.
Yeah, you can say that, right? You can say, yeah, that's good, but you can also say like Manjushri. Manjushri is not Hinayanist, neither Hinayanist nor proponent of Hinayana tenet.
Now how many gone?
Before, yeah.
How about over you give?
I said Nagarjuna.
Nagarjuna. How about Mark? You didn't hear her question?
Something that's neither Hinayanist and neither a proponent or a proponent of Hinayana tenets.
See any Mahayana teacher.
Good. Okay. Yeah, any Mahayana teacher? No, it's not true. How about Buddha Shashamani? But you guys got the difference? I'm not talking about for the what means Mahayana, what's Hinayana. I'm pretty sure you already know. You're plain. It's two difference there, okay? Now next homework is what are we going to give next homework? I don't know, more complicated or a little easy one. What you guys like? Easy one or complicated one?
Okay, so we didn't answer the questions, all the questions from last week. Maybe we could do those for next week.
Or really, what are the weeks? Okay, I'm going to add another one, okay? Yeah, last week's question, remember what that?
What is meditation from the perspective of, what is Buddhism meditation? And then, sorry, I don't have the exact wording from the thing, but then the other was in the definition of a Buddhist where it says, does not assert any ultimate objects of refuge. What is ultimate? What is that?
We will talk next week, okay? Today the homework is got it. Next, Sharame will get the Metinisha.
So the definition of the valid direct perceiver, and according to the Vaibhashika school.
Not here, right? Not this book, right? You have to find, okay?
Can you repeat that question, please?
What is the definition of valid direct perceiver according to Vaibhashika school?
And the homework questions appear on the website, and if you click on the description for the class, you can get past homework questions.
Okay? This is, you have to look book, okay?
I don't understand the point. What is meditation from Buddhist without object of refuge?
No, those are two different questions. They're on the site.
Yeah, the second question, during classes, we reviewed how one can identify a Buddhist based on view, meditation, and conduct. What is the meaning of meditation in this context? So that was one question.
Oh,
What's the answer?
What is the answer? Oh, meditation,
Goes
which
to-
reduces delusions.
Mark, you got it? What's the answer? What's the answer?
He said delusions, but
Not for him. You can say yourself. Any other?
well, you have the intellectual delusions, then you have the emotional afflictions. So Buddhists would probably combine both, right?
True.
What question are you answering? What makes it a Buddhist meditation?
Yeah.
I think
Reduce.
yeah, if it's an antidote to the delusions, right? Whether or not it's an antidote to the delusions would be the defining.
Okay. Today's question is okay. Give me the
Definition.
definition of the valid, what the valid cognition.
Valid direct perceiver.
According to the Bible.
Someone told me, don't eat the glass. My friend, someone told me, don't eat the glass. This is very powerful, very delicious. Okay, it's not in the book. I don't buy other books. And then we have also leftover instead last week's homework.
We also were comparing a Mahayana and a proponent of Mahayana tenets.
I think this is easy, right? You already start to Hinayana. It's same go to outside that. And we have other homework left. Still, we're not finished, right? What the surfing and nature surfing.
Yeah, yeah.
Think that okay? No problem. Voila.
May I ask a question
Yeah.
about that comparison of suffering and the nature of suffering? When you, in this context, do you mean suffering as in true suffering? Like,
바로 true surfing.
Suffering인데 누가 주세요?
걔가 둥하가 아니라 아니 저까지 그러다.
So suffering and nature of suffering. So again, I know, I mean, if you just think from the a mere word point of view, then you will not understand it. But what does it mean? You know, like the nature of suffering in this context. That's what you have to understand. So 둥하와
세상 가실라 둥하와는 레니 장원체나 둥하와라 그랬어.
So nature of suffering, you know, I mean, if you just think about the word, then you will not understand, you know, what we're talking about. But in this context, the nature of suffering is something that comes, you know, from karma and delusion. So anything that comes from karma and delusion is a nature of suffering. And the suffering is something that you experience, unpleasant experience.
다 될라야 아니 소와 시바이 고 시바이 고랑이 시바 고 말다 나 시바이 고랑이 된다. 동아리 시바이 고스.
And then the suffering, you know, so suffering has to be it's a feeling, right? If it's a feeling, then it has to be consciousness. But there are some people who says the suffering is not necessary to be a consciousness. But I am saying, I'm someone who says that who follow, you know, someone who says that suffering is consciousness.
Okay, 아차나 디파 샤고르 간제 둥아당 둥아와니 봐.
So now you understand what is nature of suffering means in this context. So if you understand that, then you'll be able to tell the difference between the suffering and the nature of suffering.
둥아와라 시바용 초고레 아니 수용 초고레 담레용 초고레.
So for the nature of suffering, which is something that comes from karma and delusion, right? Can be a consciousness, can be person, can be a thing, right?
Is it mutually inclusive with contaminated phenomena?
가로.
What's it?
Is contaminated phenomena mutually inclusive with in nature of suffering?
Yes. I
Right.
say yes. Yeah. 사체다 둥아와니 치바레라.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. I say
Good.
yes. 근데 사체 라이데 콜라데 뇨모 제루 뇨모야 제그로나 사체나 그래.
Yes, so contaminated phenomena, yes.
Okay. I think we stop now. That's good. We talk too much. And thank you also,
Margaret,
Facebook guys. Yes, Margaret.
Yes, Geshe-la, I'm so sorry, I have a question. It's about today's teaching on number 6, right? On today's teaching, when you talk about the mode of asserting selflessness, in the last word, last paragraph, last line, where it says, but is inexpressible. Could you explain what is the context? What does it mean here when it says inexpressible?
제마도. 랍토고 말데 가사 세대 따바레오 랍토고 문도 마타바레 랍토고 문도 봄보데 찌 랍토고 문도 가레 랍토고 문도.
Yeah, it's not able to express the person as permanent, or not able to express the person as impermanent. And the person is not able to express the person as independent, or a person as independent, also, like that. Or it's not able to express the person as being one with the aggregates, and it's not able to express the person being different from the aggregate, like that. They're kind of not able to express. That's what it means. Yeah. It's not able to say. I'm not able to say whether I can, whether it's one with the person, or whether it's one with the aggregate, or with different from aggregate, whether it's impermanent or permanent, like that. So not able to express that.
So it's not saying anything.
Means that not able to say whether it's this or that. Yeah. Not able to express.
인디가 다시요레스 다 강사지요레스 따바레오 라야 무도 마타바레오 라야 무도 인디 강사지요레스.
So that kind of that's a person. You're not able to express the person as one with the aggregate or different from the aggregate. Not able to express that person as prominent or as impermanent. So that's what it is. It is inexpressible. So we are all like that. That's according to this Basiputrian school of the Babashka tenet. That's what they say. They're saying like a person is like that. So it's inexpressible. So if Geshe were to ask you, what is he's holding in his hand? Is it a glass or is it a plastic? Then you said it's inexpressible.
Okay.
Like that.
All right. Okay.
So if you don't know, I mean, if you know, then of course you can say it. But if you don't know, you can't express as this or that.
Okay, then Juma young and the test test
So we're going to go through this again, and I will try to make it a little bit clearer maybe next month, or easier for you to understand. But still, it's very complicated. Very complicated. So it is. It's inexpressible to say this is what it is. Like they study for their whole life and they still debate on that in the monasteries.
제가 점단 내다 2차 내려는 내래 2차 내 말을 카카하라고 그래. 랍백깔이 원데서.
So you have to go by the context and go by different tenets, So it's according to these tenets, according to this tenet, like that. And then also there is a text, different text composed by different teachers, right? So according to this text, this is what it is. According to that text, this is what it is. So you have to explain in that way, and to do that, you have to know all these different texts.
제가 빼잖아. 단다 나도 빼나 사람이 내한테 야포지 시단도 다 코라데 내가 따다 이해내면 너도 때스 하거나 주만 너 대발나 군대도 말하자로 오 따뜻하게 무슨 상관 야야 카카로.
And so if so in this context, you just have to know what is their assertion. Of course, it might not be same as the others, So definitely it's not going to be same as others. But whatever their assertion is, that's what you have to note here. And then when you know this, and then later when they talk about Sautantika, the higher school, and then you will see the difference. Oh yeah, the Vaibhashika says like this, Sautantika like that. So you will see you will know the difference. If you don't know this, then you hear that and you can't tell the difference. To know the difference, you have to know both of them.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thank you. Make sure to do homework. Okay, next time the homework question first mark, okay? The first one. What do you need? Definition of the same
Drug perceiver. Valid drug perceiver.
You need to find out.
According to the
Vaibhashika. Okay, thank you. I will dedication, yeah.
Page 39. Thanksgiving mandala offering. Saji perki juju medo dra rika linjini nekyam kade saye chindu vati pragana rachenda sharashu ekson manikute kapinche nata kenesho chute bhadan rosante tekani sasumgi roimze dada nekyochi yedam guru ragna mandalakam niryatayami. It's a Prabhupada's final line prayer. From my two collections, vast is space that I have amassed, and described as for a great length of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all my life, my dear Sri. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by practicing. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold the Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds for those who wish for liberation be granted boundless peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time. But even this graded course to enlightenment completed due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their children. All human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and make things conducive for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhists. Whenever someone makes an effort to act in accordance with the 10-fold Mahayana virtuous practices, be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. The short, long line prayer for His Holiness. In that snow mountain encircled land, source of every benefit and joy, may Lord Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezig remain in life till samsara end. Savior of the snowland teachings and transmigratory beings who extensively clarifies the path to unified emptiness and compassion. The lotus in the hand, Lord Tenzin Gyatso, I beseech, may all your holy wishes be fulfilled. Page 49, the short long line prayer for Lamas of Rinpoche. You who uphold the subduer's moral way, who serve as a bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Madhyava's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplishes magnificent prayers honoring the three jewels, Savior of myself and others, your disciples, please. Page 57, the prayer of dedication. Through this virtue may I swiftly, having gained Guru Buddha state, place each and every step in that state. Precious supreme Bodhi mind, may it where unborn arise, and where born never decline, but increase forevermore. 75, it's him up. Make made say generosity. Remain yen pei wang ho jang yang dong chen ke pe su yen song ka pa do sang ra pe yang la so va de.
I get one.
Thank you, Geshe.
You get you got the strong one. Another guy's good ones there. Good night.
Yes, thank you,
Good
Dr.
night.
Wong.